Oh, yes. Hi. Welcome to my non-talk show talk show. Heated. I know I'm supposed to have like a niche, but really I am a multifaceted human being and I have so many different interests. I'm just gonna talk about whatever I want. So go ahead and pull up your seat because you're not gonna want to miss this heat on Heated. See what I did there? I want to start off by saying thank you to the viewers, my studio audience. Yes, clap for yourself, clap for yourself. Today, we are talking about the Kardashians. First of all, don't boo my girls. Don't boo them. Listen, I know we all have our beef with the Kardashians. They're this, they're that, they're all these things. But there's something very unique and interesting about them that keeps them in the media. The Kardashians have recently left their home channel, which is E, where the show launched, and now they're doing their show on Hulu. Now, the first 2 to 3 seasons were kind of weird because they were trying to do like this extremely polished version of themselves on a show, which was so weird. I'm like, damn, maybe we need E to come back and give us the real drama and the real tea. But season 4 was felt like an honest look at the girls' lives, really Chloe and Kim, less of anybody else for real, and how their day to day goes and what's happening in their lives. So, a lot happened this season. One, they had a conversation with Tristan. I know, right? Because it was very much needed. And you won't believe who was the one person that actually stand on business. Two, Kourtney and Kim got into this really big fight. I mean, they're always fighting, but good God, this fight was seemed like so petty, and it was so much to unpack. Social media really tried to like blame Kim. This might have blamed Kourtney. So I'm gonna give my opinion on the fight and who was in the wrong. Also, you're gonna see how Kourtney tries to hold Chris accountable for her impact on their lives and how she scarred Kourtney and all these different things and how you watch her dodge accountability and you'll see some of the same traits Chris have. Kourtney mimics right back to her with her sisters. Okay, what I'm about to say only exists in a parallel universe, so please do not beat me up for saying this. Wouldn't Chloe and Scott be so freaking cute together if Scott had a better personality? Because I love that Chloe was the person to always hold Scott accountable. And no tea, no shade to Kourtney, but I definitely feel like Kourtney is slightly annoying. I'll never forget when they were in New York, and like it just seemed like Kourtney just had this thing about like shooting every idea that Scott had down, but Chloe actually holds him like accountable for his poor behavior, right? And when there's a difference between holding somebody accountable and then just almost like killing their spirit. Courtney's like, "Hey bitch, you're doing wrong, stop." Courtney's like he's enjoying something and she's like, "Oh, I don't really like this." Da, 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 da. So, just so y'all can see what I'm seeing, I'm about to show y'all some GIFs of Chloe and Scott together. I couldn't get the videos because E and the Kardashians would copyright my stuff. So you just look at these GIFs. Please look at how good they look together. Like, oh my God, look at them. I just wish, I know you should like, I wish Scott didn't meet Chloe and her like, when people hated her for being fat and things like that, because Chloe is actually one of the most amazing people that I know. Now, she's a bit of a doormat. We'll talk about that later, but she truly is such a kind-hearted soul, such an amazing person. Like, I would have loved to have seen how Scott and Chloe would have worked out in a relationship. So, look, just look, look. Do you see what I'm seeing? Do you see what I'm seeing? Amazing. Fantastic. Love these guys. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the nitty-gritty. Kim and Kourtney. Yes, 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 yes. I hear y'all. 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 But I want to entertain the fact that sometimes, even though I think Kim is right, we don't always give Kourtney her fair shake because Kourtney has been through some really traumatic things in her life that maybe the other girls didn't experience or didn't absorb because they were so young. So, if you've been a long time watcher of the show, you should probably know by now that Chris did cheat on Courtney's dad, Rob Kardashian, with this man named Ty Waterman. This happened around, I think it was in 1989, and then Rob and Chris got divorced in 1991, and around the time when Chris was actually having the affair, both Courtney and Kim, Courtney was about 10, Kim was about 9, and I want to talk about what it could be like in a house between, and children who've been in a house of divorced parents probably know what it's like, that energy of like always being on edge, always trying to like figure out, are you walking home to a calm house or to a house that's in chaos? All of these things probably have molded Kourtney's kind of like irritated and aggravated disposition that she seems to always have on display. Not to mention after Kourtney probably having like a tumultuous childhood with her dad dying and experiencing the divorce and watching her mom get remarried, she then married a man baby, Scott. And while I don't think Kourtney was perfect in that relationship at all, I do think that because it happened to her in her 20s, it also helped mold a large percentage of her personality, if that makes any sense. Watching Courtney deal with Scott, we got to see how she had to always police him. She had to always be the one to pretty much be the parent in the relationship. She never really got to experience love in a way that allowed her to be carefree, that allowed her to experience life in its full bliss. It really became a relationship that drained the life out of her. And we can just look at how she was. And that's probably why she went to therapy a lot, because she not only had to heal from her childhood wounds, but she had to heal from the wounds that Scott left in her. And thinking about how your childhood trauma translates to relational trauma, and then thinking about like how you can't fully separate your identity from your relationships because you think that you are the relationship at the time before you grow and get the knowledge. I can only imagine the kind of damage Scott had on her self-esteem, sense of self-worth, self-love, and self-respect. And it probably explains why she's so bitchy now and so wanting to be out of the family way, because she feels like she's never really had the power to stand up for herself. And I feel like now that she has found that power to finally stand up for herself, she's not going to give it up. And I think sometimes what happens when people learn about boundaries are they forget to like know that boundaries are adjustable, movable, and sometimes they change even in the moment. I think that with Courtney, it's like you will not take my power from me this time. And I think that because even though to us she seems like she's always bitchy, probably at that time a lot of her foundation of standing up for herself was out of you won't hurt me versus I know what's best for me. Those intentions are like very different and they create very different behavior. The thought like I know what's best for me and I can hold my boundaries leads to more positive, I'm not gonna say easy, but more cooperative experiences versus that you're not going to hurt me tends to lead to more negative and uncooperative experiences, because the way you deliver what you want, the way you express your needs, the way you even carry yourself in the room will lead to people feeling like they're turned off by your behavior, which then, because we can all feel the energy, then will lead you to think that they're having bad energy. And it becomes this whole loop of like, me against them, and then it creates this, it reaffirms your story that you have to protect yourself from people, and then it keeps you in that space of like you won't hurt me versus having boundaries from a space of hey, I know what's best for me and I'm going to be very kind about it, and I'm going to like say hey, no, you cannot do that, and if it really gets that bad I'm just going to walk away, but as we can see with this family dynamic, the Kardashians don't really deal with anything head on. Like even in their therapy episode, they kept running out of the sessions. Also, I think it's good to note the fact that Kim wanted to be famous. So, whatever came with that, whatever it took to get there, she was willing to do because that was her dream. And you can see that distinct difference in her and Courtney, because I don't think Courtney really wanted to be famous. I just think that she probably envisioned having a cushy, good life. I think that the fame and the show and all that just were lucrative. It was good at the moment. And at that time in her life, she was young. I don't think she had that many boundaries. And the money that came from the show, I'm pretty sure she was like, this is a good career to go into. I don't think she really ever had a plan for how to handle, deal with, manage, go through any of this stuff. So we can't really compare Kim and Courtney as people because they have completely different ideas about life and goals. And I think that's where a lot of Kim and Courtney's problems come from. And instead of them having like a mutual respect for each other, there's a disregard and disrespect for how one decides to live each of their lives. And it really stems from Chris, because Chris clearly favors Kim because she makes the most money, she put the family on the map, versus Kourtney, who kind of seems to always be a drag in Chris's eyes, who seems to always be holding everybody back. Also, thinking about that now, your parents really set up the foundation for the relationship you're going to have with your siblings based on how they interact with you individually and how they support you and their needs. If your parents seem to favor one sibling over the other, it puts both children in a state of competition. Also, it makes one child feel like they're inherently unlovable, and it makes them feel like they have to continuously strive for their worth. When you come to think about it, all of the civil rivalry is started with Chris. If Chris invested and loved each child the same way, they will feel no need to compete in the ways that they do. They wouldn't get or feel like their merit is based on how much they do, where rather based on how much they love each other would be like the guiding set of principles that they go by, not about who works the most, who has the most money, who makes the most businesses. If it was about how well we love each other, then their family dynamic would be completely different. But if that was the case, would they have a show? Would they be interesting? Because no one wants to see that much positivity. So it's bad, but it's good, and it all works out in the way that it works out. So
Like, ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get